you think that privately these teams know what they think about said players. The Warriors have got their opinion about James Wiseman's future.
Yes.
You think Kyle Shanahan has his opinion about the quarterback position and Trey Lance's now and potentially future. I mean, none of them are ever going to be like, yeah, we don't think they can ever be any good. Like, obviously they evaluated something at somewhere along the line. They're like,
right.
Yeah, they could be good, but not now and maybe not necessarily anytime soon. I'm of the belief, and I know they'll say things like, we can never have too many good players. But like Joey Bart was the second overall pick, and then they hired Farhan, and the very next year, he used his very first pick on another catcher. Is that not Farhan, at least a little bit, telling you, yeah, really don't like the pick you made last year, Giants?
It's nonverbal communication.
Yeah.
When I tell my friends who are my age, mid-50s, that I either am about to have or I just had a baby, and I tell you, Mark, and I'm not going to put my friend Matt Steinmetz on blast, but he's among this group where, yeah, buddy, I met this woman, we're having a baby. And they go, congratulations.
What?
Come on.
Right. No, did you get any congratulations, I think?
No, the words
Did you get any of those?
What's funny, Mark, and the YouTube audience could see it, but the words that come out of the mouth are congratulations, but the face is one of pure horror. Basically, the mind is saying, you what? At 54, but they know that the right thing to say is congratulations. And I think that it speaks to this topic where, yeah, Farhan is never going to come out and say, Joey Bart, he stinks. But non-verbally, with the first pick that he ever makes as a Giant, he takes a catcher. Doesn't that tell you all you need to know?
Well, and then look at the way it played out.
Right.
I mean,
Joey Bart was the catcher until he wasn't the catcher.
It has felt from the beginning that Farhan was, and this is the phrase I'm going to keep using, was not that into Joey.
Right.
He picked another catcher, and then even publicly, at the beginning of the year, do you remember this before the season? He said some things where you're like, ooh, that felt salty. Like, what did Joey do? Did Joey, like, I don't know, did he kick his shin or something like that?
Right.
Like, before the year, there was some comment, it's not going to be a perfect quote, but it was something along the lines of, well, if we get a lot more of what we saw last year, then we'll be looking elsewhere for a catcher. It was something along those lines. And you're like, damn.
Right.
That's your second overall pick from a few years ago. Like, that's not usually something you say into a microphone, but he did.
The old expression of actions speak louder than words, and we can take this to the Niners where you've got Trey Lance and you've got Brock Purdy coming off of a major injury, and yet when free agency opens, you rush out and sign a guy who's on his third stop, who is a couple of snaps away from being a bust, and you can't wait to bring in Sam Darnold to be in your QB room. Right. Actions speak louder than words.
Well, and here's the other thing. What happens is, and this is what leads to a lot of criticism from the public, is I think in life when someone messes up, there's a certain thing we want to hear that person say. Whether it's, I'm sorry, whether it's just some form of accountability. I messed that one up. We take that stuff really well, don't we? We used to talk about this when people get caught doing steroids, okay? If somebody, like, if Andy Pettit, I think, was the one who came out and he's just like, yeah, dude, it was almost like, he sort of made it sound like I tried it once at a party. Wasn't my thing. And so I'm really sorry about that. And you never heard about it again. But it's the people who start the lie and then try to cover it with another lie and another lie. I didn't know. I only smoked once, but I didn't inhale. I didn't, all of this stuff.
Shout out our president.
You're just like, you idiot. Will you just, we accept, I'm sorry, I messed up so well in this society.
You're right.
We love it. We love it. And we're terrible at saying it. A sports team can't do that because it ruins trade value. It's disrespectful to the player. But if the 49ers did, if they came out tomorrow and they're like, look, we got Kittle in the fifth, we got Warner in the third, we got Greenlaw in the fifth. We've had some successes. The Trey thing, gosh, boy, we messed that one up. Would you accept it? Would you just be like, okay, I'm not going to criticize you. You're not going to pick them all right. And even though that's the biggest one you've ever done, You've had enough success to where I'm not going to freak out because you missed one. I feel like if in another world they could say that, it would make all of this okay.
See, I don't think so.
They're still in a winning window.
Sure, but they haven't won. They're in a winning window, but they haven't won. And because they haven't won...
They've won. They haven't won. They
haven't won.
You're the Niners. The big one.
You're on a quest for 6.
Yep.
And the quest for 6 is now going on 30 years. And you haven't won. I mean, you've been close. You've been so close to even make it more maddening. So you can't right now, as Kyle Shanahan, come out and say exactly what you want to say. Now, if you would have won the Super Bowl last year with Brock Purdy, he doesn't get hurt, you beat Philly, and you somehow get over on Patty Mahomes in Kansas City, and you win the Super Bowl. Well, then you can come out and say, you know what, we're going to trade Trey Lance, or after you trade Trey Lance because Brock didn't get hurt, and Brock won the Super Bowl, so obviously Brock is your quarterback, and so now Trey is going to be traded, and you trade Trey, and then I got it right the second time, for... a 4th and a 5th, whatever you get back, it doesn't even matter. You won the Super Bowl. Then you can come out and say, yeah, we misevaluated Trey.
Okay.
We hope for the best for him and his future. But you know what? I'm holding the Lombardi here, so I can say that. You can't say that when you don't win the bowl.
It's easier, no doubt. But what do we also tell people? Like, when you mess up, what matters? It matters what you do next. It matters how you react to your mistakes. You are who you are in your worst moments, right? Like all of these little phrases that we like to use. Well, let's look at how the 49ers have reacted. Understand that normally when you take a quarterback in the top 5 of the draft, if it goes totally haywire, it usually means your organization is right back in the top 5 again every single year, still on the search, totally in a bad spot. Hey, Chicago Bears, how you doing? You're there every year because you stink every year and you've never had a quarterback and you never get it right. Well, the 49ers, since selecting this player, have only gone to the NFC title game. That's it. Now, you're right. They didn't win the big one. But it's not like since they made this error, and I am being presumptuous by calling it that. That's too early, and I admit it. But if it is that, since they made this pick, all they've done is go to the NFC title game twice and win a hefty majority of their ball games. That matters in this conversation. Even if you made a mistake, if it's not one that's debilitating, well, then they've reacted pretty well, even if they lucked out by getting Brock Purdy and not realizing it.
They've reacted pretty well, but they haven't gotten to the point where they can go ahead and have that mea culpa moment. For the Warriors and James Wiseman, they can come out if they want to and say, you know what, we made a mistake. And darn it, if we didn't win the NBA championship with him on the sideline. And, all the best to James Wiseman. But
don't you think that'd be disrespectful to James?
It would be at this
juncture. If they called it a mistake?
But James Wiseman's career will show you whether it was a mistake that they drafted him or a mistake that they let him go. One of those two is going to be true. They made a mistake. They either drafted a guy who wasn't good enough or they gave up on a guy who was good enough that they gave up on. And that's the same thing with Trey Lance.
Might have made 2 mistakes.
Right, and that's where the Niners are with Trey Lance because you traded 3 picks to move up and get a guy, and you never really used him. And if he goes out and he plays great somewhere else, well, you made 2 mistakes.
Well, I guess my point is I'm totally fine with a mistake. Who the hell doesn't make them?
This is a massive mistake.
Well, but if it doesn't hurt, then that's okay. Like, again, and we're in a spot where they can't come out. They can't go to a press conference. Okay, the 49ers have scheduled we made a mistake press conference for 2:30 this afternoon. Please be there and make fun of us while we do it.
If it was Farhan, it'd be on Zoom.
I mean, Kobe Bryant's the only person I think who's ever done that in the history of sports. I'm calling a press conference to tell you how bad I messed up. You don't do that usually.
Magic Johnson did the same thing.
That's a little different.
Yes,
a little different.
Well, and I mean, the elephant in the room was the reason why he had contracted that HIV virus.
Yeah, and that sets him apart in the NBA. None.
No, but that's to your point about a guy who he called a press conference to basically, it was an apology of some sort because the reason why he contracted that was because he had relations with hundreds of women unprotectedly.
I guess Tiger had one of these too.
Absolutely.
Tiger did too. Yeah, remember that one where mom was just, gosh, if you ever asked me what was the most uncomfortable moment in the history of sports, I think I might pick that. He was just looking at his mom. She's just sitting there, just totally dejected. Oh,
no, but
I don't ever want to watch that again.
Is Tiger more beloved now than ever before? Maybe not, but
no.
He went from the lowest of lows where he was shamed. And you remember how one woman after the other, it's like, oh my God, are we up to 8? Or is this now 9 mistresses?
Oh,
I lost count.
Dude, we're up to about 109.
Well, because the first one comes out, and then it's like this person, waitress, porn star, waitress. And then
don't act like we heard from all of them.
No,
do you know what I mean?
That's the point, though, Mark. And yet now he goes on to win the Masters again, and he's again the most beloved figure in the history of the game because of what you're talking about. He came out and gave that mea culpa.
And how do you react? What do you do next? Right? If the Giants did mess up with Joey Bart, what do you do next? Go get Patrick Bailey. Okay? You messed up with Trey Lance. What do you do next? Whether it was a lucky break or not. If they've got something in Brock Purdy, we're good here. Just keep being good. I'm fine with a mistake. I make them all the time. Just acknowledge them and then move forward and try to be better tomorrow. You know what I mean? Let's go to Mike on Eddy Street here with Willard and Dibs. Love to take your calls here, 888-957-9570. Hey, Mike, you're on with Willard and Dibs. What you doing?
Hey, I just wanted to say, with Kyle Shanahan and his quarterback picking situation, I don't really trust his judgment because he had Brock Purdy as a third string, and Brock Purdy was showing them every single time they put him in, he was showing them what he could do, and they still wouldn't start him. So all of a sudden he come in and he do what he did, and now he the talk of the town. But I'm just saying, Brock Purdy never changed what he was doing. Trey Lance is getting better from what he was, and he's still talking about trading him. It's like they should just keep everything they got.
Well, wait a minute, Mike, I got all kinds of questions about where you're getting what you got. Like this idea, Trey Lance is way better now than what he was. Based on what? Where are you seeing that?
Brock Purdy was already who he was, and Kyle Shanahan couldn't see that.
How do you know that?
He did what he,
I don't see that at all. Are you at every practice?
When they put him in for the preseason, when he first came, when they put him in on his snaps, he was throwing some bombs.
Well, but that's preseason, right? I mean, that's like being, is Guy Santos in the Hall of Fame because of what he did in the summer league? Like, Mike, I'm not trying to come down your road at all. I don't know where that it feels to me like you're being rather presumptuous on a number of levels here.
No, I'm just saying that they should not trade Trey Lance anyway, because I don't think that Kyle Shanahan really could see like what quarterbacks really could do.
Well, okay, thanks, Mike. I mean, I'll agree that it's very possible that something went horribly wrong with their evaluation of Trey Lance. That is completely on the table.
Or at the very least, their timeline for his improvement was a little bit off kilter. Maybe they still see what they think that they liked and that they still believe that he can be a good quarterback, but you're running out of time because this is his third year. And at the end of the third year, you have to make a choice about the fifth-year option. Do you pick up his fifth-year option? And you got Brock Purdy on a 4-year deal. This is year 2 for Brock Purdy. You're not going to give a second contract to Brock Purdy and Trey Lance. So at the end of this year, you have to decide, are you keeping Brock Purdy or are you keeping Trey Lance? Well, and right now it's about 95% Brock, 5% Trey.
Yeah, that's why I am in this moment a little bit in favor of getting out ahead of this. And what I mean by that is not letting it get to a spot where it's any worse. Do you know what I mean? If they go through August and it's Brock 1, Sam 2, Trey's down here battling out for Brandon Allen for whatever's going on. Like, if you're going to get there, why wouldn't you get out ahead of it and see what the market is now? Now, I'll grant you maybe there is none. Like, I don't know that the 49ers didn't already try to trade him.
Oh, I'm sure they have.
I do not know that they haven't, and there have been whispers that they have.
The phone is not on silent. The ringer is on.
Yeah.
So whether they're making calls or taking calls or both, I think the interesting thing about the quarterback market is between now and September 10th or 11th when the season starts, somebody's going to get hurt. And it's an unfortunate part of the NFL. So if a quarterback gets hurt, do they then call the Niners and say, hey, how about Trey now?
Well, I mean, where are the 49ers in that conversation?
Yeah, true.
And what's their injury situation? Like, they don't want to the 49ers, it would almost be funny at this point for them to be like, well, right, we're trading a quarterback because of a surplus at the position. We just have too many of them. What would the fan base say? Are you kidding me?
Right.
You've been telling us for a year that you can't have too many people at this position. So I don't know where this goes. It just feels like we're at a spot where once we get to August and we're having real information, rookies are reporting today, a week from now, the team is going to be there. Once we're rocking and rolling here, there are a number of ways that this could go that are not good. That are not good for the public persona of Trey Lance. They're not good for his value. They're not good for his future. They can't force it. They can't stick him in there just because, and this is the stuff that gets me, it feels like a lot of you want them to stick him in there because they're supposed to.
They owe it to him, Mark.
Yeah, come on. Goo got within in fact, he did. He said it. And then the minute he said it, Steiny jumped on him and it was like, okay, right, I guess not. That's too firm of a statement. And no, they owe Trey Lance a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Right.
That's it.
And they owe it to everyone else in that locker room to put the best possible team on the field, and that includes quarterback. And if Sam Darnold is better than Trey, and if he's better than Brock because Brock comes back from injury and his arm is not what it was, and if Brandon Allen is the best quarterback in the room, it's possible, Mark.
Sure it is.
It's possible. If Brock is not fully healed and they don't believe in Trey and Sam is still seeing ghosts and it's clear that Brandon Allen is the best of the four, then you start Brandon Allen.
Yeah, the whole thing is weird, too. Just the whole conversation that has ended up happening. Both teams, like this is not the Giants because baseball teams have first-round draft picks between 1 and 20 in many ways in baseball can be pretty similar, but not so in the NBA and the NFL. And both of these teams in championship windows ended up with really early picks. And I feel like we've been struggling with this all year. The idea of whether or not a number 2 or a number 3 overall pick can even fit on a team that's trying to win now. And so that's what everybody keeps going back and forth with.
Right, and especially when you deal with the quarterback position, and that's the one to me that's so interesting because you didn't go to your number 3 pick to be your quarterback to lead you to the NFC Championship game. You took a rookie who was Mr. Irrelevant, the last player taken in the draft. So why couldn't you have done that with the number 3 pick? Well, you could have. If you could do it with a rookie who was the last pick in the draft, you absolutely could have with the guy you took number 3 overall, but you tried to, and he got hurt. And now the guy who was Mr. Irrelevant is getting healthy, and of course he's QB1, but what does this do for the number 3 overall pick? It means he can't play. If Brock is healthy, you can't just say, well, Trey, we need to see what we need to see from you, and we owe it to you because you were number 3 overall. That's not the way football works.
Yeah, I wonder if that aspect existed in sports, would we look at it differently? If Kyle Shanahan could just pull everyone aside after practice, August 28th or something. Look, we messed it up. What do you want? We messed it up, and we're doing everything we can to rectify the situation. We feel incredibly lucky that we do have some quarterbacks here who've been able to learn the system and stuff, right? And they've been able to, right? And we're winning, and we think we're giving ourselves a chance to win the whole thing. And that's the way it went. We're trying to rectify it as much as possible without ruining Trey's career, because I would never want to say that a guy is not going to develop into something, but he's not there right now. We thought he would develop quicker. Injuries didn't help. We messed up.
He doesn't have to say that.
Of course,
they know that,
and he can't. But if you were a fan, would you accept it differently? Because I feel like we end up in these situations and pitchforks come out, even though we're all sitting here watching these teams in the midst of winning.
This team, yeah, in particular.
The Niners are knocking on the door every year. The Warriors just won 13 months ago. The Giants are sitting there in a playoff spot right now. And every time a draft pick doesn't work, pitchforks, you hate young people.
It's what we do.
Let them in, let them in, let them in. It's like
let Kuminga eat. And
I love the young
totally.
people.
They don't love the young people, Grandy. And I think the Shanahan one is interesting because it's not okay, because maybe you could have used one of those first-round picks to get a guy who maybe you would have taken a second tight end, somebody who could actually block and protect Brock Purdy, and he doesn't have his arm fall off.
It's a mistake. There's no way around that it's a mistake.
But it's a costly mistake.
Maybe.
And maybe it's prevented you from winning the Super Bowl.
Maybe. I mean, that's hard to, hard to quantify.
You didn't have a draft pick, and you didn't pick a player who might have been able to help you.
But you're still out there winning 13 games a year.
Not enough. It's not enough.
I mean, the team was absolutely ready to win. They were ready to win. You know what I mean? They had the shot. I don't know if they would have got it if he had stayed healthy or not, but they're right there.
Yeah.
As a fan, I can accept that if you're doing it every single year.
I can accept it, but save me the apology until you get to a spot where you can apologize.